So I'm not exactly sure what this is going to look like, but this is the capstone project of the course. And this is where you explain special education to the parents, because this will be the group that you communicate most closely with the most often, and it'll be the most important. So let me give you some ideas of topics, and you can lay this out on your web pages however you want, but this is how I would do it if it was me. First of all, this is a multimedia presentation. You're going to present this in a multimedia way, meaning you will have text here, but you will also have audio or video or both. What does both or one or the other mean? Means that you either do some kind of just a voice recorder that you insert in here, or if you have the technology to use Jing or even YouTube or whatever it is, but you present each of these in a multimedia form. You can put information here for parents to read, but you must also have at least one other form, either video, audio, or video, or both. And if you're not sure how to do that, ask for some support. And you can link each one. You can import them into your web page. You can set them like right next to here, links. You can link them to other pages, however you want to do it. Or you can make one whole multimedia thing and put it on YouTube if you want. However you want to do it, but you need to cover each of these topics with a multimedia presentation, text and another. So you can put in stuff here on this page, but you have to have other stuff with it. So let me take you where I would go with this. Early childhood disabilities. I'd come back to the textbook here and just start out here. And what you want to do, what this is about, is helping parents see a little bit of where special education came from. And here it talks about all these influences. Don't go through all of these, but describe it in a way that lets parents know this is how we got here where we're at. And then the same with legislation. There's a ton of information in the textbook about all the different legislation pieces. And I would list a few of the important ones and explain them that include, let me flip ahead here a little bit in the textbook. Here's the legislation part, and I say you see a lot of it here. This is certainly an important one, Vocational Rehabilitation Act of 73. The granddaddy is 94-142. Comes up here farther. Okay, this is the granddaddy. First federal piece of legislation about schools. Then it talks about these amendments. So if you're going to put them in here, why they're important, what they did, you know, it bring a bunch of these in. Again, like I say, you're going to have multimedia. You're going to be telling and showing. And then it jumps into IDEA, and certainly you want to make that corner also of IDEA and why it changed to that name. And speak and present in terms that parents understand. Do not give it textbook language. Do not give it teacher language. You speak to them as parents. Now try to give you a hint, because so often I get this stuff that isn't parent speak. So when you get through this legislation, then who has a disability, these categories, this is here also. Okay. Let me find the categories here. But I want you to be very careful with these categories also, because I don't want a lot. I don't want you to overwhelm anybody with it. It's all about the IEP. I want to come back to this. Here is the groups. Okay. And you want to manipulate this a little bit. Autism, like deafness. You don't really have to do anything with deafness. That'll be explanatory. Deaf, blind, hearing impairment. Obviously, the ones you're going to concentrate on is the one, the textbook. You want to isolate out certainly emotional disturbance, but you want to isolate out, after you give a description of these here, attention deficit, hyperactivity, and these over here. And so you want to go into more detail at autism, learning disabilities, mental disabilities. And you don't have to be this detailed, but you can as much as you want, but you want to over-explain these categories in this part here about who has a disability. All right. And in here, it's going to give you opportunities. And this may be another thing about the signs, tips for parents and teachers. There's some stuff up here that you may want to make good use of about tips for parents here on these different category things. If you want to use those, you can. I will see that as a nice step. But then we're going to jump into this actual process. And again, I want you to put this in terms of parent speak in this multimedia presentation. You'll have information here and links, but you will, one way or another, figure out a way to talk them through it. First of all, your rights as a parent. You can come here in the textbook and go through this. Let me see if I can find this back. The rights they have, but you may need to go out to the web page and look at rights also. Here's the development of the IEP, and this is one of the things we're going to look at is that IEP process, and I'll expect you to put information in here, but also, again, if you look at how this is written, this is not in parent speak. This will sound like an overeducated, self-indulgent teacher if you put this in this terms. You are going to approach this as you're working with parents that are just finding out that their children may have a disability. Walk very tenderly. We talk about this in the lecture about the stages that parents will go through when they first are hearing their child may have a disability. They're devastated. And so you want to put it in a very self-reassuring way that this too will pass and they will get through this. Here's the IEP stuff. Ideally, the IEP does these things. You give it these steps, but you will also speak to these. Again, you'll figure out how to do it, either with audio or video or both. And if you're going to put it on YouTube or, if you use Jing, you can import small pieces into your wiki space and link that in there. Here's rights and responsibilities. This really isn't definitive enough. Don't do anything here with developmental delay or charter schools. Stay away from that. But certainly notifications, these things, just reassure them. I will link the parents' rights thing from the state web page in here also, if I can find it. So you have that. Let me go back. So that'll be the process. And this is the one I really want you. First, I say their rights as a parent of a child with disability. And you understand, right, that this is more for you, or this is more for them. That they have special rights that other kids don't have. Yeah, in a school system where everything has to be equal all the time, if your child is deemed even to have a possible disability, they now are entitled to special rights that other kids don't get. And parents are entitled to special rights that other parents don't have. So you make sure you make that clear. But here's that assessment process. You lay this out very clear about you don't do anything until you have their permission. And then there'll be some assessments given, like an IQ test. And you determine what they can do now. We won't say their current level of performance. That's teacher talk. You put it in parent talk. What will they, that you'll do some assessments, some testing to see what they can currently do, what their current grade level is in the different areas of reading and writing and math, so that you know where to start and what they're having the most problems with, so you know exactly how to help them. That's how you explain that assessment process. And then if they're determined to have a disability, that they have a disability and they qualify for special education services, then you go into this IEP process. And then the last thing you'll do, and this is I'll really expect you to develop this, is what will it be like if they get services in special ed. And here's where I want you to concentrate on. One is that they may be pulled out for a resource room. And what is that like? What things may happen in the resource room? And you can link stuff, you can bring stuff, but mostly you tell stuff about this. You talk about in here stuff about modifications and accommodations they may have. You talk in this about what things will be challenging. You talk about in here about what you'll do as their classroom teacher to be supportive of them if they are determined to have a disability. Those kinds of things. How will their life be different if they're in this process? If it's not different, then we don't need to do this. We don't need special ed. This is where you reassure parents that things will be different if they're on this IEP and are provided this service. And it's okay, I say, it might be just you with a talking head explaining these things, and that's fine, but you got to figure out how to link them in here so you can talk to these parents and reassure them in a multimedia fashion. Class, this is about two things. One, this is about you being able to communicate with parents in this area. Two, this is maybe bigger than the first one is, that you think through and understand these processes. That you, now as a teacher, can speak correctly about these areas. Why I get cranked up about this is because so often I see the regular ed teacher, when this comes upon, they simply absolve themselves of responsibility, pass the child on to the special ed teacher, and pass the parents on. And why that's so wrong, especially in elementary school, is because as a parent, I have a relationship with you as their teacher, not with the special ed teacher. I want to work with you. I want to hear this from you. And of course, as the regular teacher, you're going to carry out and really activate most of these programs and processes and services. You're the one that's going to operationalize them. Sure, the special ed teacher might do some resource stuff. They certainly will be involved with the IEP, but the day-to-day accommodations, modifications, and support come from you as the regular teacher. So if you do not understand this process, here's your chance to learn it and be able to speak it, to be able to tell the story verbally. That's what I expect from this. It's a big project. It's 20 points, and the others have been 10, and it's kind of the capstone project of this course, is explaining special ed to a parent. I say, so now you'll learn that from it, but hopefully this will bring clarity for you about this process that has this step, first these steps, really learning for the disability, how it got through the legislation, then these different categories, and then this process.